give me shelter, shelter. Simple life, it's all we want to live. Give me food, give me clothes, give me love, and give me shelter, shelter. Yeah.
So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the We To Our Liberians Movement platform, your distinct and dynamic platform that speaks to and for the masses. We are not in the business of manufacturing players, pimps, and hustlers. Rather, we're in the business of changing and revolutionizing the thought process of our people, not only in Liberia, but even around the world. So welcome again to the We To Our Liberians Movement podcast. It's great to have on the show tonight Mr. Nathaniel Herron, as well as Mr. Doupu, who are here to kind of dissect our topic for the night. As you can see on screen, the topic that we have here, legitimacy in crisis. We're going to talk about power, authority, and the future of Liberia's democracy. So just before we start the show, I guess I'll allow Mr. Nathaniel Herron, you can go ahead and introduce yourself, followed by Mr. Doupu.
First of all, I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation to our all-powerful host, Mr. C. Ayiti Williams, for providing this unique platform that will be able to dissect what is unfolding in our country. I'm also privileged and honored to share this platform with a true friend and patriot of Liberia in person of Mr. Mansfield Doupu. I'm looking forward to engage in meaningful discussions and dialogues. And I hope those that are in the audience that are monitoring this show and watching this show, I hope they will be able to have a better understanding based upon the way we see things in order for them at least to make decision or judgment that will impact the lives of our people. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I am Mr. Nathaniel Y. Herron, who is always right about 99.9% of the time. Stay tuned to We Too Liberian Movement where facts matter. We do not make the news, like we always say, we report the news. Looking forward to a beautiful show. Thank you.
All right. So we'll just ask Mr. Doupu to introduce himself.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to everybody. My fellow panelists, Mr. Herron, our host, Mr. Williams, and the viewers in Cyberland. It's an honor to be here again to share my thoughts on a wide range of national issues that are confronting our state, our nation state, Liberia, and other issues that the host might deem necessary for us to discuss. My name is Mansfield Doupu. I'm a governance specialist. I'm a public policy practitioner, and I'm honored to be here to share my thoughts. And I hope our listening audience will learn as we share our thoughts. We learn from us, and we'll also learn from them. And we'll have a great show tonight. Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you both once again for being on the show tonight. In this critical episode of the Political Talk, we sit down. Now we want to talk to our audience. We sit down with panelists, Mr. Mansfield Doupu as well as Nathaniel Herron, to explore Liberia's growing democratic dilemma, from legislative gridlock and Supreme Court's ruling to the erosion of rules of law and the fallout of Nimba County Senatorial race. The panel will dissect the foundation of political legitimacy, power, and authority in post-conflict Liberia. What do these crises mean for 2029? That was a question that I asked Mr. Nathaniel back today. What direction must the ordinary Liberian or Liberians take to reclaim democratic accountability? So this episode, as we all know, seeks not only to inform, but also to awaken the civic conscience of Liberian people. So welcome again. I want to get right into the show. So we'll start with Mr. Doupu. But just before we do that, if you have your phone, I think we should make this a tradition to make sure that we share the show with our viewers. That's something that I'm trying to do here. I am now sharing the show strictly here on Facebook. So, Mr. Herron, if you have your phone, you can do the same.
Yeah, I just share enough. That's all.
Okay, so that's good. It's good that we can all share the show for the benefit of both here in the diaspora as well as Liberia at home. So tonight, let's unpack the meaning of power, authority, and legitimacy, not as abstract concepts, but a real, or we see it as a real force in shaping our country. So I want to start tonight. First question with Mr. Doupu. When we talk about a legitimate government, what does that really mean for the average Liberian struggling to survive?
Well, those are very important concepts in political analysis. Power, legitimacy, authority. Those are very important, concepts that political scientists have over the years juggled with, and how does one attain legitimacy, for example? How does one attain power, political power, and authority? So they are very different, although they are kind of interlinked. They are kind of intertwined. Sometimes some people use them interchangeably, but they are very different. When it comes to legitimacy, how does one derive legitimacy? Legitimacy is derived from a source of power. It's almost like a relationship between different phenomena. You derive your legitimacy from power. When you are given political power, that gives you legitimacy. It means the people have entrusted that power to you. They have vested that power in your hand to use that power, in ways that benefit, that is for the public good. So when you have that legitimacy, that source of legitimacy comes from election, it comes from other plebiscite, but it comes from a consensus from that body politic that gives you that right to administer whatever it means, your association or even your home. You gain legitimacy by being the parent of the home, because you guess it's a source of power that is entrusted in you to administer your home. So it comes to the state, the nation, as a polity, POLITY, that geographic landmass, that nation where a group of people come together with, in an assembly where they can entrust other individuals that right to administer them. So that gives you legitimacy. It is derived from the will of the people. You can't get legitimacy just by abstract means or some concoction. It has to be derived from the will of the people, because all power is vested in the people. So once the people can transfer that power to a group of people, so that gives them legitimacy. That relationship. It's a relationship. It's relational. So that is a concept of legitimacy. It's derived from the will of the people. Some people misconstrue that they think your legitimacy is just something that, based on your own volition, you can attain. No, it's derived from the will of the people. The people in that assembly, in that particular geopolitical, assembly, when they entrust individuals with a source of power, that gives them legitimacy. Because legitimacy is not de facto, it's not just willy-nilly, but it's de jure, in real legal terms. Legitimacy comes from legitimate. It all comes from the word legal. It has a legal construct. The power itself is a political construct, but legitimacy has a legal component. So power and legitimacy, that this, twin relation is symbiotic, but it has a political component and a legal component. So you can't talk about legitimacy in that raw political dimension. that is a legal theoretical construct. So that's one thing. So power itself is that thing that the people in that geographic region, in our society, for example, that based on their own volition, that trust that they hand over to other people, that gives them legitimacy because people have the power, you know. So in the social, in back in the days where there was the rulership of the strong or the survival of the fittest, where the strong survive, they control, every aspect of society. Society came together and said, no, there has to be a way that we can use this power as a collective resource, because it's a relational. In a society, it has a relational component. So in that relationship, there's power. So that power is that source that people can use, can legitimize their leadership and make sure that leadership can be either put into office or withdrawn from political office. So when it comes to authority is a key concept too. Because if you have authority, that means that you've already had power, you got legitimacy, then the exercise of that power based on your legitimacy gives you authority. So authority is almost like the last part of the equation. There has to be power, there got to be legitimacy, then you have the authority to exercise that power through that legal construct that I just talked about. So I hope you understand that these things are relational, they are interchangeable, but still they have their own separate conceptual frameworks that political thinkers, political scientists have always employed. Maybe the layman might not know the difference between power, legitimacy, and authority, but I hope really dissecting it, those three theoretical constructs, will have the appreciable understanding of how these concepts and theories are used in the real political language.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doupu. And Nathaniel Herron, I'm not going to ask you the same question, but there will be times where I will circle back to that question. What I'm going to ask you, because I know Mr. Doupu really went in depth dissecting, the question, the difference between power, authority, legitimacy, and things like that. So we often hear people say the government has power, but not respect. In your own view, what's the real difference between power and true authority in politics?
Well, when you talk about authority, for me, I look at authority from a different background based upon my own personal background. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mr. Nathaniel Y. Herron, who is always right about 99.9% of the time. From the military background, when we say someone has authority, it means the person has the right or power to command. That's the way I define authority. You have the right and or power to command. So once you have that authority, you'll be able to command a group of people. Now, within the context that authority is being used in this discussion, then it means that we have to veer towards governance or politics. In Liberia, we have a Republican form of government, wherein we have the people making choices through elections and voting for their people. So if you do that, it means that you have given someone the power and authority to govern. Now, that power and authority has to be legitimate. Again, like what Mr. Mansfield was saying, these words are used interchangeably. When you talk about legitimacy, you talk about acceptance. You talk about acceptance to be governed by those you elected. So with the construct of Liberia politics, to say, well, what does it mean to a layman when you talk about authority? Authority is just like giving someone power to lead, to command, and do it in the way that would benefit the people. You cannot do it in a way for self-personal aggrandizement, like the situation we're always seeing in Liberia and other parts of the world, where we consider corruption to be the hallmark of the day, where the entire country is just inherently corrupt, and as a result, the rule of law is fundamentally unsustainable. Everybody doing their own thing. So if you give someone the power, legitimacy, it means you are empowering them for them to command and lead you. That's the way I see it from that military perspective.
Thank you very much. Now, I want us to also bear in mind that we want to, as much as we want to, be a little bit more in depth. We try to be as succinct as we can. So now, Mr. Mansfield, this is my question to you. The Supreme Court recently stepped into a legislative matter. What do you think their ruling really mean to our justice system? What's your perspective on their ruling?
Yeah, I mean, the Supreme Court recent ruling have caused a lot of consternation in the society. I've read, numerous narratives from different lawyers, political activists, partisans from a whole spectrum of the Liberian political landmark. And I think the question the court was trying
let
to
me phrase the question this way, right? So the Supreme Court recently stepped into legislative matters. Do you think their ruling helped protect our democracy, or did it just add more confusion? Maybe I'm not, as you asked the question that way.
Well, there are three separate branches of government. Although separate, but they are coordinated. Some people miss the mark. They think because they say the branches are separate, they are equals. They are co-equals. But one of the key word, the operational word is coordinated, because it's like the governance architecture is based on the three pillars. And like Herron registered that we have a Republican form of government. Democracy is a Republican form of government. We have three branches, three equal but coordinated branches of government. So if one branch is is facing political paralysis, is facing some dysfunction, it affects the entire governance architecture. It's like building a house. If certain parts of the house is not constructed properly, it affects the entire structure. It undermines the entire structure. So I think the question the court was trying to answer was more of a legal question than a political question, because the court is not allowed to delve into political questions. Political questions are things that should be dealt with by the politicians, because they make the laws. They are the representatives of the people. But the court is also there to serve as a counterbalancer, because the whole essence of a Republican form of government is not to centralize power in the hands of a particular branch of government. So I think the whole question was the issue of the legitimacy of the speakership. We come back to the word legitimacy again. These people have power. Well, the question of legitimacy comes in. Who is the legitimate speaker? Because to have a speaker, according to the Constitution, there has to be a threshold of legislators voting for, they appear in that body. Is that a first amongst equals? So a threshold has to be attained for a speaker to be elected, and also a threshold has to be attained for anybody to be removed from office, for that matter, maybe the speaker, because it is an elected position. Although you all are members of the legislature or the House of Representatives, but to have a speaker, there has to be an election, amongst the members of the House of Representatives. So to remove that person, that process also has to be invoked. So that was the question the court was looking at. I'm not a lawyer, and I won't pretend to be one, but from all the readings, from all the court's verdict, and some of the things I've read from the court, it was answering that question: who is a legitimate speaker? How was this person? Because there are two blocks. There's a minority block that has a speaker who doesn't have a quorum. There's a majority block that, quote unquote, has not reached that threshold for removing the speaker. So there has to be some level of what they call a plurality of vote to have that to come into effect, to have that threshold to remove a speaker. So they're holding and polling. That undermines our governance architecture. It just undermines the stability of the state. Now the court has ruled, but they are, opposition to the court's ruling. And look, we live in a democracy. The court is there as the final arbiter. We say the court is there, and even if you don't like the court's ruling, we got to live by it. There has to be somebody who will make the final call. If they were put in that place, as some of them are there for, I don't know how the duration of the court's tenure is, but I think they now change the rules. Now, once you're above 70, you got to be removed from the court. But it's almost like a lifetime, appointment. So for the court's decision not to be upheld, and to have people, even the Liberian National Bar Association, that even internal wranglings, because the bar president came out and said that the court was amok, the court ruling was contrary to constitutional provisions, and other people in the very bar at the highest level of bar leadership were countering such an assertion. So we find ourselves in a serious political quagmire, which of course the ordinary citizen equipped to understand the implications of the legal system, but it just puts the country in a bad light insofar as the country's image is concerned, insofar as the governance of the state is concerned. So we are talking about the issue of legitimacy. I think that was the issue the court was trying to deal with, the legitimacy issue, but not the issue of power, who has power, who has authority. Because once you have a speaker, that speaker has power. That power translates to legitimacy, and that legitimacy can be exercised as the authority. So all those things are in a state of ambience. We still got to find out what would be the outcome. I hope cool heads can prevail. That this thing, it's just about civic responsibility. How people see themselves in the public arena. If they are there for themselves or they are there for the Liberian people, only time will tell.
So if you've tuned in, you're watching the We Too Are Liberians Movement platform. Tonight, we're unpacking the meaning of power, authority, and legitimacy, not as abstract concepts, but as real forces shaping the lives of Liberian every day. We're also taking a close look at Nimba's, Nimba County Senatorial race. That's something we're going to be talking about as we continue with the show tonight. So again, we have on the show, as you can see, Mr. Mansfield Doupu, as well as Mr. Nathaniel Herron. So now that'll take me to our next question, which is for Mr. Nathaniel Herron. The House of Representatives seems more divided than ever. What do you think is really driving that division? Is it ideology, personal interest, or something else?
Well, it saddens me to see my birth country, Liberia, retreating in a crippling paralysis of fear and having a political recidivism. For you to have an impoverished country, that the people of that country barely surviving, to have two speakers at the same time. One country, two speakers. It's not based on ideological difference. like the way you have other political environment, for example, like the United States, Canada, Europe, where you have people differ on fundamental ideological differences to say this person is a liberal or ultra-liberal and this person is a conservative. That's not what we are experiencing in Liberia. Liberia is just based on personality court. They elect you because they like you. They elect you because maybe you're giving a handouts, like bag of rice. They elect you because they are your trust man. So it's not based on ideological difference. That's not the fundamental reasons why the people elect them. It shows you the kind of country that we have. It shows you the kind of people that we are. Look at our country. After all the carnage, people are still agitating political instability in the country. Like the way Mr. Mansfield, Doupu rightfully said, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of the law in the country. You may not necessarily agree with the decision, but it's binding on you. And the reason why they have three branches of government is simply because of check and balances. We all know the power of the executive. Executive controls the military. They have that enforcement power. You and I know the legislature does not have enforcement power. They don't have prosecutory power. And that's the reason why when the legislature even summon you and try to question you, and they even find you in contempt, or they find you for some ethical impropriety, they cannot prosecute you. Why? Because they do not have that prosecutory power. Instead, they refer you to the Justice Department, which is under the executive. It will be the executive or the Justice Department. They will level charges against you and charge you and take you to court. I'm very much disappointed, to be quite honest with you, with the Liberian National Bar Association. And to be quite honest with you, they have their reason. According to what they said, as a matter of fact, they even demanding, not even respectfully, to the Supreme Court for them to withdraw their decision. We have seen time and time and again, the Supreme Court can set precedent and even override their own precedent. Mr. Doupu rightfully said it. The two factions that we have, they have not yet met the required threshold to execute with perfect synchronization what they intend doing. And it was based upon that, I want to believe, the Supreme Court said, let us return to the status quo ante. In other words, the Supreme Court made it very clear to say, if Fonati Kofa is around and having a meeting, and Fonati Kofa does not preside over that meeting is considered illegitimate. The LNBA, the Liberian National Bar Association, went further, but to me, within my opinion, attacking the Supreme Court, saying, well, if you say that these other people are somehow illegitimate, it means the budget they have passed, the budget is also illegitimate. And logically, they're making sense. If the Supreme Court is saying, you know what, whatever thing Kuhn did with his majority black and having to pass the budget, if the Supreme Court is saying, well, it was not done appropriately because Fonati Kofa was present, he should have presided over the meeting as such, we consider that to be illegitimate, then it means the budget they passed is also illegitimate. How will we be able to pay our Saver 7 if the budget is illegitimate? It's sad. It's sad. And the legislature, they can make their own rules. I'm not trying to take side here. If you don't meet the threshold of removing a speaker, let us return to the status quo ante. Let it be the way it was until you can have that number to have the speaker removed. Because it's a shame to have one country, two speakers. Then you have the president of the Republic of Liberia. He's there talking about quorum, inviting stakeholders and the rest of it. I don't know who actually advising this president, but I really wouldn't advise him to get involved. Like the way Mr. Doupu rightfully said.
Thank you very much for that response.
Equal branch of government. We were all here in 2000. Some of us we saw what happened in 2000 with the Supreme Court, headed by William Rehnquist. United States Supreme Court, headed by William Rehnquist. President Bush won Albert Gore Jr. with winning 535 votes in the state of Florida, the entire state. And they went to court. They started from the lower court. They went to the appellate court. They went to the Supreme Court of Florida. Then they went to the Supreme Court of the United States. I still remember Albert Gore's concession speech. He said, that which unites us is much more greater than that which divides us. It's time for America to survive. In as much as I differ fundamentally with the ruling of the United States Supreme Court, let us respect the decision of the Supreme Court. And President Bush lost the popular vote that year, 2000. So it means Albert Gore Jr. or Vice President Gore had more people voting for him as opposed to President Bush. He was not satisfied with the decision of the Supreme Court. Why can we live by the rule of law? Why are we always like this? If I order the Supreme Court does not rule in my favor, I consider it to be judiciary fiat. Or as the way the LNBA, Liberal National Bar Association, posts it, overreach, call it some judiciary overreaching. That's how they describe it. How will you consider it to be judiciary overreaching? The Supreme Court is there to settle dispute. That's the purpose of the Supreme Court, to adjudicate cases. You carry your case, they don't go around looking for cases. You carry it to them, they look at it based upon the merit, they interpret it based upon the way they see it, their own understanding. You can't go after the Supreme Court. So Liberia is in a complete mess. Liberia is in a complete mess. And people are agitating political instability in this country. It's not good for our country. Let us learn to respect the rule of law. Supreme Court has rendered the decision. Let us live by it. In as much as we may detest the decision of the Supreme Court, and that's why they say within our opinion or within my opinion, our opinion may not necessarily be right to you, but let's live with it and move on. That's it.
Thank you very much for that response. So we'll quickly pivot to Mr. Doupu there. My question to him would be, when our leaders keep bending or breaking the law, how does that directly affect the life of the ordinary Liberian, say the petite trader or the motorbike rider?
Well, in our society is based on the rule of law. If you don't have the rule of law, you don't have a society. You don't have a country. You have anarchy. So it affects everybody. It affects the livelihood of those who are the governors and those who are being governed. In the social contract, is a two-way street. But it's just a piggyback on what Herron said about all the squabbles. We talk about legitimacy. We'll come back to it because it's a very key, it's a very key concept in political analysis. In legitimacy can either be de facto or it can be de jure. De facto legitimacy is legitimacy as a matter of fact. Somebody can say, as a matter of fact, as long as we have this amount of, people on our side, we are legitimate. But there's a de jure legitimacy. It comes from that legal construct, that legal prescription, that legal threshold that has to be met. We talk about quorum. Quorum is a threshold. Even if you're running a 6-member family home, and you said, well, if 3 persons here, we got a quorum. That's a threshold. It doesn't mean that is a, majority. You just have 3 persons of the 6 people in the home. So it doesn't mean majority. It's just a quorum. It's a threshold that one has to meet in your home, in your business meeting, in your professional meeting. When there's a certain amount of people at the meeting starts. So in the political arena, that how it works. In a democracy, in legislature, that how it works. It's just a threshold that has to be met. It doesn't mean that that's a majority. So that doesn't give it de jure legitimacy. It's a de facto legitimacy. So I just want to talk about that before we move to how it affects the country as a whole. Yeah, I mean, the laws are there to guide society. Because by nature, man by nature, is not wired to follow laws. He's not wired to follow laws. We all are inherently lawbreakers. But because of laws, because of the consequences of breaking laws, that's what constrain men over time, in prehistoric time. Society has always been lawless. It's always based on might makes right. But over time, society have learned that might makes right is detrimental to society itself. So society came together in a conclave. I don't want to use the paper conclave per se, but in a plebiscite, in a forum or an assembly, and the top members of society came together and had an agreement amongst themselves, compromises, consensus building. These are things that happen in society. Even if you don't like the outcome, you have to live by the outcome, because society say, well, these are the people we entrusting this power to. So that power gives them legitimacy. We'll come back to it. The power, legitimacy, then the authority to exercise that. It's almost like a mathematical construct, It's almost like an equation, for people who are in the natural sciences, how you work the equation and you see the equal sign, that transferability of the different, parts of that equation based on this, So in political analysis has its own, some level of scientificity. So that power we entrusted in the Supreme Court, it gives the Supreme Court legitimacy, and in that legitimacy, they exercise authority over us as a people. And that authority comes with their rulings, their verdict, their opinion, their interpretation. These things are part of the social contract that we all sign amongst ourselves as members of the society. So if we find individuals undermining that, if we find political parties trying to undermine that, or other, sectarian part of society try to undermine that legitimacy, it affects the whole governance architecture. It affects the legitimacy of even the legislature. Because there will all be conflict in society. There will all be constitutional crisis. They will have to come back to that court to interpret the Constitution. The legislature doesn't interpret the Constitution. That's not their role. Their role is to make laws. And sometimes those laws themselves run contrary to the Constitution. So any law that runs contrary to the Constitution is illegal. So everything has to be based on, because the Constitution supersedes every statute. So even when you're making statutory laws, they got to conform to the constitutional, adherence. There has to be constitutional adherence. So if you come up with laws are part of public policy. Laws are part of public policy. Because in making laws, there will always be negative externalities. There will always be people who will be affected by those laws. But the court is there to mitigate that negative externality. That if somebody feels injured by that law, that person can go to the court for redress. If we can do that, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a totalitarian state. I don't think we want to revert to that, as a totalitarian state where the rule of law is circumvented, is abrogated because some people feel aggrieved. It undermines the very legitimacy of the entire government. And we don't know what to do now, because there's no end in sight. People still hauling and pulling just because of. It's not ideological, as Herron rightly stated. Nothing philosophical. Their differences not ideological. It's not philosophical. It is just about who controls the purse strings. It is just about who wants their pockets to be filled. Who wants this title? It's all about title. It's not about the people. It is all about the title. Have you heard any legislator going back to his or her constituency to solicit the views of their constituents? Have you heard any town hall meeting? Have you heard about any town hall meeting any congregation of the people to ascertain their viewpoint because they work for the people. It's the people's tax dollar that pay them. So if you are a delegate cannot delegate. The Greek said a delegate to some delegates. A delegate cannot delegate. You can be a delegate and you want to delegate your responsibility to another person. You can't do that. You have to come to the person who gives you that power of delegation. There is a client and also that relationship between the client and the clientele. The clientele is there. There's an actor representing the client. There's a source for that client. You know? So the whole arrangement, it just undermines the countries because what happened domestically has a reflection externally. Who investor will carry money to Liberia? Who would carry, money to create jobs for our people in the state of political paralysis, in the state of political dysfunction? Who gonna put that money there? Who gonna, because it's based on the very legal system that people carry that money in a certain country because they want to know that that country legal system can protect their investment. The investor look at a legal system. They look at how it works. If they can have redress. So if you're having that kind of squabble in a very court that should be the final arbiter that should be creating understanding dispute and coming to a resolution of disputes. And that very institution is being undermined by people in the higher ups. So what happened to the layman down there? He wouldn't even go to court when he's aggrieved. When something happens to him, he won't even have faith in the legal system because he knows that at the top, there's no faith, and everything is based on faith and trust. So coming back to the question for the country is I hope cool heads can prevail, and we can go back to the status quo ante. That even if the speaker is removed, let us do it in a way that gives honor to the legislature, which is supposed to be the first branch of government. It's the first branch of government for this one fact. I will close by this. Because in the social contract, when Rousseau, Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Locke, and Thomas Hobbes were postulating these things, hundreds of years ago, they believed that power should not be entrusted in the hands of few people or a single individual. It should be dispersed. Because the danger of doing that is you will have a totalitarian state. Because in the political arena, they are the governed and the governors. There's a social contract. The House of Representatives is very powerful because it's the body that represents the people. It's the direct representative of the people. And the House of Senate represents the state. Because there's relationship between the people and the state. That is the social contract. That what makes the House of Representatives very, very powerful in that representation, Republican form of government. So if we can have stability, predictability in that aspect of our governance architecture, it's a dangerous, very dangerous place we are as a nation state.
Thank you. I want us to, I know we're going to zoom in on Nimba County, the senatorial race between Edith Gunglo Ware and Representative, I guess his name is Koga. I always get that wrong. But I want to first just circle back to Mr. Herron. Because I know, Herron, you come off more as a civic educator. So from your view as a civic educator, now, do you think that average Liberians still trust the justice system, or has that confidence completely broken down?
Well, I would say it with absolute ontological certitude. The Liberian people do not trust the justice system in that country. We have a very clear and urgent choice to make here. the choice between autocracy and the choice of democracy. But what I see, Liberia is on a steep, spiraling decline of judiciary fiat, of complete lawlessness, and it has the propensity to degenerate into physical violence if we do not arrest the situation. I live in Liberia. I left from the United States a couple of years back. I lived in Liberia for about 7 years. What I saw in Liberia. Let us revert to the old ancient saying that says, might makes right. It's what exactly happening in the judiciary system. Might makes right. You don't have more contacts. You don't have more money. You don't have influence. 9 out of 10, you're going to win cases. Again, I'm not saying that if you don't have these things, you cannot win cases in Liberia, but it's almost like a fleeting illusion to be pursued. If you think, say, the judgment will be based upon the rule of law, it's not going to happen. So as a result, the ordinary men have lost confidence in the entire system. We expect investors to come to that country to invest. When the judiciary system is not as effective as the way it should be. When you have one country with 2 speakers at the same time, then you have the executive branch inserting itself into it, like the president talking about getting a quorum. It's none of your role. If there's any dispute, go to court. It's not the executive. The executive, you only there to enforce. You only there to enforce. Like I previously said, the legislature have oversights. If they have problem with you, Mr. C. Ayiti Williams, they're going to call you. Of course, Congress is going to call you, or the legislature is going to call you. And if they find out that you're involved in some ethical impropriety, what they do, they recommend, because they do not have prosecutory power to prosecute you. They send it to the Justice Department. Again, the Justice Department falls under the executive. The ordinary people don't have trust in the system. I who here, I live in the United States, at least for now, I don't have trust in the system. I took someone to court in Liberia. It was not easy. I won't call the person in because he had gained prominence in society. And I don't want to shame him. Not so much as shaming him, but I don't want to be exposed to lawsuit, because I may say something that probably he may take me to court. And I would say the right thing. I'm not prepared to go through all kinds of litigation. I took that guy to court. It was not easy. The very day we were supposed to go to court, the judge said he was taking a break to go for lunch. He got on the pen and never came back. The guy that I took to court, he will show up when he wants to show up. When he doesn't want to show up, he will not show up. It's so sad. So we're going to trust a system like that. So to answer your question, Mr. Host, Mr. C. Ayiti Williams, the ordinary people do not trust the system. I who's sitting in the comfort of my seat and behind my golden microphone talking to you on this phone, I don't trust the judicial system in Liberia. It needs complete overhauling. That's the way I see it, and that's the way I'm telling you.
Thank you very much. Let's fast track, Mr. Doupu. I want us to kind of zoom in on Nimba County a little bit, the senatorial race between Edith Gunglu Ware and Representative Koga. As we all know, the race was really intense. What do you think it revealed about how politics is shifting in that region?
Well, it just speaks to, the old adage that politics makes strange bedfellows, and that adage couldn't have been, more present than what transpired in the recent election in Nimba. Politics makes strange bedfellows. Even people who you think are, on different spectrum of the political, landmass, they come together when they think their interest is threatened. They come together, they coalesce, but they don't do it for the sole purpose of advancing the public good. It's all about, strategic, positioning, all about strategic positioning, all about, aligning with people of today. But you know that you guys don't really share anything ideological, anything philosophical. It's just based on the movement, or the only thing you share maybe a common enemy, a common political opponent. So you come together, but at the end of the day, there's nothing really, because but to come back to the whole stuff, we saw that since the passing of Prince Johnson, the Nimba Senatorial race gained a lot of public attention because Nimba kind of have positioned itself, as this, maybe collectively, they can make anybody president, or if they withdrew their support from a political, a person, that could spell your political demise. So everybody kind of put all their eggs in that Nimba basket, hoping that, the outcome will speak something about, your presence there. But especially when it comes to the vice president, he's positioning himself maybe for a future run for president of Liberia, because the vice president is like, a heartbeat from the presidency, like they say. So that election kind of positioned himself either to say that he is the new kingmaker since Prince Johnson's passing. He is the new guy who everything runs through. So he had his candidate in a race, and other people are trying to contest that. That's his perceived stature as the kingmaker. So other political parties were supporting other candidates. We found out, some people were saying that CDC had 3 candidates in the race, spreading their odds. So it all came down to the decision of the people of Nimba, and we have to respect whatever decision they made, by electing Samuel Koga as their senator. There's not much we can say about it, but just the political, machination, all the intricacies and everything that led up to the election of Samuel Koga. Because you remember that Koga himself was at odds with Prince Johnson before Prince Johnson's passing. We saw when Prince Johnson died, all the rituals and things. It was a strategy for him to ingratiate himself with the people of Nimba, for him to show that, because I was told that he and Prince Johnson are actually, related. I think they are either his uncle or some relation. I don't know the detail of that, but they were at odds, before Prince Johnson's passing. So he went and joined Prince Johnson's party, to the consternation of some of the people from Prince Johnson's party. But he played his game. In politics, you gotta be pragmatic, and the end justifies the means. That's realpolitik. So he's senator. We wish him well, but it was just about gamesmanship. It was just about political machination and gamesmanship. At the end of the day, they have a senator, and we hope that he will be the senator for the entire people of Nimba, even those who voted against him or people who didn't support him. Because when we become senator, you're not just senator for your county, you are senator for the Republic of Liberia, because the Senate represents the state. Like I said, initially in the social contract. So you elevate yourself now from that, local politics and stuff, as a national, statesman or stateswoman. If you're a woman, you become a stateswoman. So you become a senator. You actually a member of the House of Elders, and leaving the House of Representatives elevates his political stature. And so, let's see how it plays out. Well, it was part of our democracy. I'm happy that unlike what most people said, it was very peaceful. The people who lost conceded, graciously, which is good for our democracy. And those who won, they were good. They were magnanimous in their outreach, to the losing candidates. So it's good for our democracy. Anytime you have an election where it's peaceful, the power is transferred, peacefully, that gives, more legitimacy to the office. And, because the power is, like we said from our intro, is vested in the hands of the people. And the people have given him that power. So it legitimizes, his stature. So we just hope that the authority that comes from that legitimacy can be exercised, in the interest of the people. Remember now, Koga was one of the so-called anti-Kofa. He was the leader of that bloc. If he had wanted to become speaker, he would have become, because he was actually the chief, provocateur, of that anti-Kofa bloc. So maybe that too propelled him. It gave him national, name recognition. So it's all about gamesmanship, and how it works in our country. It's all about gamesmanship. It's not really about the people, their interests, what concerns them. It's all about somebody attaining political power, like they do. It's all about themselves. It's nothing based on relieving the suffering of the people. The people's their state of affairs, remains the same. They don't have no stake. They don't have no stake in the grand scheme of things. Their economic wherewithal will not improve. And these guys make hundreds and thousands of dollars, So when would they, restrain themselves from all this opulence and graft, to make sure that the very people who send them there also benefit from the resources of the country? But all they go for now is the cars that cost $75,000, $80,000. The plush offices hire their conveyor belt, inner cycle people. And if the people, they still remain in abject poverty and misery. Politics is intended to change the lives of the people. But apparently in our country, it's the reverse. It doesn't change the life of our people. Our people's lives still remain stagnant and maybe retrogress, as time goes by. So, it is our reality.
Thank you very much for our listening viewers. You're watching the We Too Are Liberians Movement platform. Topic today is legitimacy in crisis, power, authority, and the future of Liberia's democracy. So real quick, we'll then circle back to Mr. Herron. This one question I think is critical to what's going on in our country and the future of our country. Some people say Nimba is becoming the new political battleground for national influence. Do you agree? And how might that shape the 2029 elections?
Well, that statement is not entirely true. Nimba could be, or it is, one of the political battleground fees of the country. Contrary to popular belief that when you win Nimba County, you can become president, it's just a part of the puzzle. You can win other populated counties with all you win in Nimba County, and you can still become president. For example, like the population of Montserrat County. Montserrat County is the most populated county in the country, followed by Nimba County. Then, of course, you have Magibi County. Then you have Grand Bassa County. You have Bone County. These are all populated county. But since 2005 election, Nimba County has been in the vanguard or helping to produce the president. So I give it to Nimba. It's a very heavily populated county. But back to this Edith Gonglo White and Senator-elect Samuel Kuga election. It was just a snapshot or a macrocosm of what to expect in the year 2029. Like the way Mr. Doupu rightfully said, I think The current vice president, in President Mr. Jeremiah Kun, probably has ambition for the highest office in the land. So he'll almost like something like a case study. And other people decided to take a shot at him. So that election brought national attention to Nimba County. It really, really did. You had CDC on the other side. You had United Party on the other side. Rumor have it like CDC supported one or two extra candidates just to poll vote. Because remember now, Nimba County is predominantly Gio and Mana. Of course, there are other tribes in the county. And that's why when other people started to preach the politics to say, well, you can have, because the senatorial seat, you have 2 senatorial seats for each county. So other people are saying, well, since we have 2 senatorial seats, one will be Gio man, the other one will be Mana man. How can you be that ethnocentric? Those are not the only tribes that live in Nimba County. You have the Wee people living in there. So if the 2 seats allotted for Nimba County, if the Gio and the Mana decide to share, what happens? What happens to the Wee man? What happens to the Crown man? What happens to even the Bassa man? Other people live there. So, like I said, it was just a snapshot of what to expect 2029. And Jeremiah Kun, a very young and astute man, this is no endorsement of Mr. Kun. Let me just set the record straight, or at least try to set the record straight. I consider him to be an astute young man. Again, this is no endorsement. He saw it as a referendum on him. And that's the way I saw it as well. To say, all right, you have political ambition for the highest office in the land. You endorse a candidate in president of Representative Kun at the time. Koga. At the time he was represented. So he put his all into all. And he emerged victorious. In other words, his candidate won. But you can still win election in that country with all Nimba County. I really and strongly believe it. But Nimba County is a densely populated county that if you have Nimba County on your side, there's a possibility that you can prevail. Now, what Nimba proves to me, my personal understanding, almost like they are monolithic. In a sense, like, so say one, so say all. When the late Senator Prince Johnson was alive, every direction Senator Prince Johnson turns, the Nimba people follow him like sheep followers. They do that. I mean, I don't know what happened to their independence. Why can't they be independent or autonomous? Why they can't? So maybe hopefully this time around, we'll see something different. But if like the way Prince Johnson was alive and Prince Johnson endorses this candidate, almost every Nimba jumps behind that candidate. If they will continue on that contour of doing the same, it means that they are monolithic. It means that they are not yet gained their independence. But I think this election was a snapshot and macrocosm of what to expect in 2029.
So then, Nathaniel, here I'm going to speak with you on this note. Young people are very active online, especially on social media. But how do we move that energy into meaningful civic action on the ground?
Well, there are so many ways. One of the fundamental and key ways of at least redirecting and reshaping their thinking faculty is through education, public awareness. Now, don't get me wrong. Social media can be used for good. It can also be used to your detriment. Currently, we are on social media. We're on YouTube. Everybody that has opportunity or that have the internet right now, if you want to watch this show as it goes live right now, just go to YouTube and go to We Too Liberian Movement. You will be able to see us. So we are a force for good. But in contrast, other people use it to destroy other people. Lies and gossip. We're seeing what happened in the United States with other talk show hosts. Again, because of liability purpose, I'm not going to call names, but they're all over these United States. So I don't want us to just focus on removing our youth from social media, thinking that social media is destroying them. What we could do, we could look for the most impactful and meaningful part of the social media that will benefit society, that will benefit our youth. For example, if you want to do research, you can go to YouTube. YouTube, that social media, to do your homework. In fact, it would be done in the most simplistic way. Unlike some of us who are in school, the red book and the green book, they call it Algebra Book 1, Algebra Book 2. Those were the two math books we had at the time in Liberia. So I think the red book, I really don't remember the coloration, but I think it was both red and green. And sometimes when you're in the ninth grade, you're using the Algebra Book 1 and you impressing it to be book 2. And we used to do our homework. This time, even my kids are here. When I ask them, where are your notes? Come, let me teach you. We don't have notes. But then how will you study? Well, we have Chrome. They give them their laptop. They do everything in school. It's different. So Ayiti, we cannot, what we need to do is to not entirely remove our youth, our kids from social media. We just need to be very pointed headed to tell them, say, look, social media is good and bad. Take the good side and forget about the bad side, because there are a lot more good side of social media than bad side.
Okay, thank you. I think that was poignant. But then I'll circle back to Mr. Doupu. We've seen protest and mass movement in places like Ghana and Senegal. What can Liberia learn from how ordinary people in those countries respond when democracy is threatened?
Well, it's done through organizing, It's done through real political consciousness. It's not arbitrary. It's not economic. It's done through organizing, because in the political system, there are interest groups, there are pressure groups, there are civil society organizations. These are also instruments for checks and balances, and then just the three branches of government, because the media is like the fourth estate. The media, even in this day and age, can be another branch of government. Political theoreticians have seen the media's role, their impact, and the power of the media as a branch of government, because the media can make you and the media can break you. In this day where everybody has a smartphone, everybody's member of the media. You can even, have your own content. You can create your own content. You can disseminate your content. Citizen journalism is key. It has helped law enforcement in arresting criminals. It has helped people who are having, say, difficult times, maybe through some very, very bad situation like a fire or some disaster. Social media has been there to mobilize, the GoFundMe and other instruments that are used on social media to help people. So it cuts two ways, it cuts two ways. So social consciousness is very key. Enlightenment, education, civic mindedness. Because even some of our leaders are not civically minded. They see the public service as a lifetime career. They see it as their only trump card to amass wealth and power. And because our society, the means and factors of production is so limited, like I said, one of the shows, most of these guys who parade themselves as, these political bigwigs, they don't have their own money. It's the state. The state has always been used as their piggy bank, where, people go in, use the manufacturer, concoct with their friends, across tribal line, because they belong to a political class. And that political class wants to perpetuate itself, and it comes at the detriment of the people. But in the very people, except they are conscious, they will even, subsume that the political class is acting in their best interest. And it will give that political class legitimacy, and that legitimacy comes with authority that they can use to the detriment of the very people. So it's kind of cyclical. It's sad, but it's cyclical and it's sad that people are not even aware of their power, that they can bring to book members of the political class that run amok, that pillage, the public treasury, because it affects their livelihood. It means that your kids will not go to good school. You won't have drugs in a hospital. The women will die from childbirth. There will be maternal hospital. There will not be any social amenities. There will be no public transportation. There will be no jobs. So it takes social consciousness. It takes a vibrant civil society, because most of the time the civil society, even the civil society organizations in our country, they are compromised. They go for the biggest bidder. They should be there to stand as that guidepost to counterbalance, thievery in the society and other malfeasance. But they most of the time they are compromised because they have political undertone. They have political interests. They're not just civil society organizations. Because we've seen civil society organizations that have compromised their core beliefs because they are compromised by the political class. So you see all the mass movement in other countries is based on civil consciousness. It's about people who know their rights, who know their responsibilities and their rights as citizens. We'll talk about discussing who a Liberian is. What does your citizenship accord you? Those are important things that people need to know. Why being a citizen of a country, what rights do you have as a citizen of that particular political polity? So it's important that people know their rights as citizens, their responsibilities. They should know that the power is invested in them. They only entrust it to certain people in the very society, their peers, to administer the affairs of that society. Because we want harmony, we want disputes to be resolved amicably. We want our laws to be enforced. We want to make sure we have security, physical security, economic security, political security. Because it will lack all these forms of security, then we don't have a country. We have a fiefdom. Is something that is ruled by edict, not laws, but somebody can just wave that, that magical wand and just impose sanction on other people and just come up with rules that affect society. So we see laws are made, institutions are there to checkmate those laws. To checkmate, the courts are there, judicial review. Even the court itself can have judicial review on its own, some precedents can be repealed by the very court. It is made certain judgment, they can go back based on, because society is, laws are like, the analogy, laws are like society. Society have changed over, over the centuries. Societies have changed, and societies will always change. And laws have to also change as times change. New laws, that will get laws about the internet now. Laws about, people using the internet for nefarious purposes. They got laws that control this thing we're using, this technology. Laws about the environment. Those laws were not there, 50, 60, 100 years ago. But as society changes over time, laws are there to change, to reflect modernity. So for our society to be on par with those, progressive societies that we talk about in Africa, and other places, we have to build that civil consciousness of the people. We need a critical mass, a critical mass theory in public policy. It's critical. It's very important. Even in establishing laws, you need a critical mass that will make sure that law is followed, because there will be deviants in society. They're all deviant society. You know, prehistoric time, even more modern times, they're all deviants. But laws are there to constrain us. You know, you see, we drive in the streets. The laws are there; they are ingrained in us. You can't drive on the other side. You know, you pay a hefty price for doing that. It's the consequences of violating laws that have constrained men over time. You know, if there's no consequence, people flaunt laws because there's no consequence. I was just looking at a friend's Facebook page, people are riding in the trunk of a taxi cab. I know we used to do that during the war, you know, because, I mean, our wartime, you know, transportation was, you know, kind of very, very not available. But even in 2025, you see women, you see people riding motorcycle with 5, 6 kids. You know, that should tell you something about the society, about the decadence. And the laws are there on the board. We got traffic laws. So, but the enforcement mechanism is not there. And the consequences for violating the laws are not, they are not there to enforce the laws. So even the public looks at the officials violating the very laws that they created. So what incentive do they have to obey, you know, even common laws like littering in the streets and peeing in the street, those small things, if the big people violating the big laws. So what the average Joe or the average Martha with any incentive there to obey laws, to don't litter the street, let's keep our river clean, or let's keep our city clean, let's put our waste, let's carry our waste in a particular place and dump it. No. Because here now, you know, people going to the Supreme Court and, you know, the various court, the decision from the court, you know, is being abrogated by the political class. So what the proletariat will do, the lumpen are violating the laws, and, you know, with the bourgeois of the country. What the proletariat class, the working poor, what will they do in terms of obeying simple laws? They won't do that. There's no incentive. So the hard graduate society, you know, have collapsed. Even ancient times, in Roman times, is because the breakdown of laws in those societies. That's why most of those dynasties broke down. You know, people flaunt the laws. And it starts from the political class. You know, it trickles down, you know, to the average guy. So to have those kind of discussion in terms of social consciousness, it would take, you know, this platform you've built, you know, the We2 and other, you know, progressive platforms that will really inculcate, you know, those values in our people, that will give them that power that to take back their power. Because sometimes they don't know the power they have. You know, we just saw the election in Nimba. It was a demonstration of the people's power. It was, I mean, people can say, well, you know, I mean, there were contestants in the race. You know, some of them did pretty well. Like the lady, she did pretty well, you know. I mean, she there was a good showing. It was not like every single person from Nimba voted for Koga. No, there was a resistant movement against him, you know, mass movement against his candidacy. So it was not purely monolithic in a sense. You know, people had different viewpoint. You know, but if you don't have that kind of system where people can actually, you know, manifest that power they have in their hand in terms of their voting rights, in terms of the right to choose a candidate that reflect their values, then you don't have a society, really. You got pure anarchy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that in-depth discussion. I think some of the things that you touched on, Nathaniel, Herron, I kind of talk about it today, and so that would take me to a question that I want to ask him, and then we'll do 2 more questions, and then we'll try to close up here because we're about. I think we probably start a little after 9, maybe 9:15, 9:16, 9:20. So look at what time it is now. We'll say maybe we're a little over an hour. So then, my question here. Let me ask you this question directly. Do you think the majority of our lawmakers actually understand or care about the Liberian Constitution, or is it just a tool they use when convenient?
Well, whether they care about the Liberian Constitution or not, as evidence of their action, it shows that they don't care. Because if they care, they will uphold the Constitution. They will respect the Constitution and the rule of law. Some of these people don't even understand how government even works. I'm not trying to pick on anybody here, but some of the people, just imagine, some of the people just maybe barely out of high school. Like the former representative from our county, the Chief Zoe, Zanzakawa wife. I don't mean to pick on her. Come on, man. This just an embodiment of the country. The legislature tells you the kind of country we have. They don't know, Mr. Host, see Ayiti Williams. Within my opinion, most of them don't know. In fact, as a matter of fact, it's almost like a drill rehearsal for them. They're almost like a practicing ground. They don't know, but they try to learn on the job. So they get there or in position of authority, and as time passes, some of them learn, some of them learn, some of them learn, and some of them don't want to learn. They only want a paycheck. And it's so sad. And we keep electing these same people over and over and over and expect to get something better from them. We talk about moral decline, cultural decadence within our society. What are some of the things that the government have put into place that will restore moral decline, cultural decadence? Nothing. Every day is a confusion in that country. Every day is a confusion in that country. Those are in the permanent, those are considered to be part of the permanent political elite class. They cannot even put forth a vision that the country can thrive on, that everybody can surround that vision to say, you know what, this is the national identity, this is the national agenda, and we're going to, and of course, it's the president that has to set it. You talk about rescue mission. To me, it's just a political slogan. It's not a public policy formulation. Come up with something concrete. For example, unemployment is this number. Unemployment in our country is probably 95% or maybe 90%. In 2 years' time, we'll be able to reduce unemployment by 2 percentage points. So since unemployment, for example, is about 90%, in 2 years' time, we'll be able to reduce unemployment to that of 88%. These are the areas or sectors that will be able to create jobs. The mining sector, I will create 100,000 jobs. The fishery industry, the agriculture industry, and nothing like that. Nothing. And someone, to be honest with you, some of them don't know. Now, this is a case study. You and myself that are considered to know based upon our outside exposure and experience and our education. They're not going to elect you and myself. They're not going to have me. They consider you and myself to be stranger. There's a guy that left from here. A very sound man. I think he's from Nimba County. Keto or Koto, Joseph Koto. I think he was education minister or something like that. I really admire him. And I think President Johnson Sirleaf made him education minister at a certain point in time. I needed to see you and myself as foreigners, our own brothers and sisters. I remember one point in time I was in Liberia, and at that time the dual citizen debate, it had really resonated and gained prominence all over the country. And so I was like, let us pass the dual citizenship stuff. It will really help the Liberian people. And my own listeners told me, oh, y'all want ISO? Can you imagine? But she expect me to help her children to come to the United States. Can you imagine? Oh, brother, one man, one power. I happen to be an American citizen. I said, let's pass the dual citizenship bill. It will help the country a whole lot. Because under our Liberian laws, foreigner cannot own property. Even though I was born and raised in Liberia, I'm a typical Liberian man, but under our law, I can own these properties that I try to erect in this country. So you encourage more people to come and invest, people of Liberian descent, people who were born in Liberia and for some reason they travel to the United States or other parts of the world. My own listeners look at me and say, oh, you want ISO, you want America, then you want Liberia or something like that. Can you imagine that? They're not going to elect you myself. They're not going to let, in fact, as a matter of fact, you go there, you invest heavily, they will accuse you and they will say, oh, our money you stole from here, that he bring it back. Our own money he bring it back. Can you imagine that? So it's so hard. Are you there? The people that are in power, most of them don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Like I said, personal aggrandizement. They just go there to enrich themselves and have complete acquisition of wealth on the side. That's all. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So I'm going to stick with you then. Mr. Doupu will close us on the last question. This question to you: with the 2029 elections not so far away, do you think political deals and alliances are already being made behind closed doors?
Oh no,
And
no, no.
should the public be paying more attention now?
No, well, if negotiations and talks behind closed door happening, I think it's happening at a minuscule level. Those talks will not really gain traction because we are not entering into the political climate or season that would demand or compel people at least to form an alliance or coalition. But again, 2029, we don't know what's going to happen in 2029. We don't know whether the president, you're probably going to have a declaration of intent of seeking re-election. He has not told anybody. I don't know much about the president's health. But rumor have it like he might not contest 2029. If he does, so be it. Now, I don't know the fate of George Weah CDC. I know CDC is a formidable party. I don't know whether George Weah will also run 2029. But again, rumor has it like he's going to run. Now, when it comes to ABC, which is Alexander B. Cummings, from all indisputable evidence, according to my inside source, that like he has no intention of running. But we have other newly birthed political parties. We have other young Liberians with different mindset and different idea and different generation trying to take the mantle of power in that country. But whether they will gain traction or not, it is yet to be seen. For example, there's a guy that is in Texas right now. His name is Winston Taylor. I think I don't know whether his party has been registered. It's called Liberia Reformation Party. Yes. He has intention of running. He was just in Liberia, and he said, look, the old order has failed us. So whether negotiation is happening behind the scene right now, that I don't know. And if it's even happening, I don't think it's even gaining traction. But 2029 will be another crossroad for Liberia. We have to ask the critical question. This is who we are. This is where we are. Where do we intend going from here? We already have 6 years of Unity Party rule. We all know that the incumbent has an advantage because he controls the points of the country. So 2029, the Unity Party decide to feed a Senatorial, which of course it is highly likely that they're going to do either the president or the vice president, one of them going to be the standard bearer. I'm predicting one of them going to be the standard bearer of Unity Party. And the potential is there for them to win or that person to win. So we're going to go 12 years. And if it is Honorable or the Vice President Kuhn, if he decides to contest and Ome decides not to contest, if Kuhn runs 2029 and wins, it will be his first term. And then it means another 6 years added to the Unity Party, which is 12. And under our constitution, he can run again. And if he runs, if he wins, it means we're going to have 18 unbreakable years of one party rule in the country, which will be Unity Party. So 2029 is a case study. Now, the alternative to the Unity Party, whether it will be feasible to the country or whether it will produce the kind of goodies that the country wants, it is yet to be seen. But in terms of answering your question directly, if there's any negotiation behind the scene in terms of political party forming alliance and thing, I don't think it's happening. And even if it's happening at a very minuscule level and it's not gaining traction.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. Quickly, Mr. Doupu, this one is for you. You're going to take us home. Hopefully, you give us your closing remark on this one. And then Mr. Nathaniel Herron will do the same. For Liberians who feel like nothing will ever change, that we are just going in circles, what can you honestly say to give them hope and a reason to keep engaging.
Well, that's very loaded.
It's okay.
You know, hope is spring internal, right?
Right.
Like they say, hope is something that, you know, is manifested from within, and it has to be kind of actualized in terms of work. You know, hope is just, you know, an abstract, you know, illusion, but it has the propensity to stir up something within that one has to manifest that in terms of actually working on that hope, because hope is just hope, except you kind of actualize that thing that is within you, and you work on it assiduously and bring it to fruition. Then that's something that you can, you know, reflect on and say, yeah, you've done your part. But coming to the larger society, I think we are all hopeful. Liberian people are very hopeful people, and they've gone through a lot. You know, since the founding of the nation state, it has always been a fraud. You know, from the foundation, it was founded on a fraud. You know, it was founded based on, you know, very, very fraudulent expectations, promises, and the people have not really, over the 150 plus years, they have not really attained their optimum as citizens. They have always been ostracized, you know, from the political landscape of the nation state. Although over the last couple of years, you know, we've had a one-party oligarchy for over 100 years. Then came the April 12 revolution, the post-April 12, the war. So people have not really had a democracy for themselves for a sustained period of time. Because in other developed countries, they've had a democracy for more than 100 years. You know, sustained period of time, predictable, stable, you know, democracy. We've never had that. We always had an oligarchy, military, then a dictatorship, then, you know, today now we have a hybrid, you know, it's a hybrid, really. It's not really sustained, you know. So we hope that in the next couple of years, we can really, you know, sustain the gains that we've made. But it's been undermined by all these, we have a restless public, you know. When political scientists talk about restless public, a public that's on the edge is a dangerous place for the people to be, on the edge, on the fringes, you know. And because of that, the lack of jobs, the lack of social amenities, and the very hope itself is being, you know, dissipating over time. People come in the street, they're like zombies. They don't know where the next meal coming from. They don't know how to pay their kids' school fee. They don't have, they have hundreds and thousands of adults that have never worked in the adult life. I mean, come to think about that, you know, that is very jarring, you know, as a country, as a society. Most of our citizens have never had, you know, formal employment where they can go to work, get their living, even different, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what form of work, but the fact that people can go to work, honestly make money and help their families, you know, send their kids to school, you know, it's like the country has retrogressed. We don't even know the unemployment, the state of the unemployment. Those are the things that our legislators need to be tackling, you know, talking about how many Liberians were hired last month, last 6 months, last year. You know, bring those numbers, you know, evidence-based, you know, governance. Everything has to be based on the numbers. Let's see the real numbers of Liberians who have had, because what people doing now is kind of informal. People riding motorbike, people doing a little small, you know, market here, market stall here, some people hustling, selling shoes and hustling on other people to make it, but to have formal jobs, formal employment, thousands and thousands of our citizens. And it's not there's no end in sight. It's just this cyclical, perpetual, cycle of familiar poverty. In the society, we're not producing anything. We're not in a productive mood. We're not producing. We used to produce our own shoes. I remember Laramco. Maybe you were young at the time, Ayiti, but I wore Laramco shoes. We have small scale industries. We used to, produce our own matches. We used to produce our own soap. Because the major ingredient of soap is palm oil, and we got that as a natural resource. So why should we be importing the palm olive and the Irish Springs that comes from, America and other places, and using our foreign exchange, hard-earned foreign exchange to buy these things? These are luxury goods, whereas we could produce soap in our country that we can even use to take bath, wash clothes. The major ingredient of soap is palm oil. They want to put all these little flavoring and perfumes in those things and package them. And we think, it elevates you. What kind of soap you're bathing with? It's part of your social stature. My man using Irish Spring. Yeah, my man, the boys now go to certain store, you get it there. But what happened to the Nyankwe in Bon County? Why he not using that soap? He's in a different social structure. So the country is being stratified. It's not, like I said in one of the podcasts, it's not based on a tribal affiliation, their group against their group. It's about, class. It's a class warfare right now. It's about a few people, very few, that have decided, plan, and they're executing a plan that they will amass wealth to the detriment of the rest of the country. That's a very dangerous state of mind. If the resources of the country cannot be equally divided among its people, at least everybody get a fair shot in life and a fair share. The what kind of society you have, it's very, very discordant society. And we perpetuate that mindset. Even the very people, they have that latent, psychological mindset that certain people need to be up there. We need to be down. And so we're not creating jobs. We're not creating opportunities. But this whole squabble is about who wants to be speaker, who wants power. That whole squabble is not ideological, not philosophical. You ask them, what is the fuss about? It's about who wants to control the purse strings. That's all. And other people trying to, incite the public. You read about university students, stoning each other and running amok. I was at the University of Liberia. We have our grievances. Yes, we did. I was in the highest, level of student leadership. But we channel those grievances through dialogue. But now there's no dialogue because the people in the administration of the state, they're not dialoguing. They're not building consensus. They're not making compromises for the public good. So how university students who got grievances can even dialogue among themselves, they even find a singular consensus. This person in this party, this person in that party. So university itself now is like a career. People make it a career. Going to university is like a career. You gotta be there, my man. So you can get a job outside, be here. There's your springboard of collecting something from the political class to either keep this segment at bay or they kind of instigate this segment. So it's like divine rule that even the colonial masters use. Even in modern days, we are using that colonial strategy to divide and rule our people. You go to university campus, certain group are for the government, certain group are for the opposition. So they stir them up. People get their little small $50, $100 here and there, sing praises for one group, castigate another group. They clash over nothing. They come to school instead of, going through the academic rigors. It's a fight on campus. People bringing knives and swords and rocks. Some university guy was telling me, I was in Liberia a couple of months ago. He said he's the master of chunking rocks. At the student center, I just sitting on there. I call him and say, look on this plaque. You see this name? He said, yeah. I said, that's me. We built a student center. You're talking about you can bring rocks to school in bag, in sacks, rocks to stone your fellow university students, whereas you guys need to go in the palaver and argue and go in the discourse and create polemical viewpoints and stimulate the mind and debate the issues, come to resolution. They're not doing it because they're public officials, not doing it. Because most of them, they don't debate. The legislature is where you debate the issues. You debate. It's the place of debate. It's the place of debate, ideas. Because it's intended for the public good. Ideas are important because ideas bring about solution. Without ideas, there won't be no solution. Any problem that mankind has faced, it's because of ideas, that solutions, that this internet was built. It's based on ideas. It's not like ideas that just sprung up. No. It was a polemical debate among technicians, people who understand technology. And over time, they have tried to perfect it. The ideas, and the strongest ideas have always stood the test, should always stand the test of time. So, we can discuss all these things and we can debate it, unless and except, we have a society that is conscious, that is progressive, because in truth gotta be told. Because the truth is under assault, even in Liberia especially, the truth. Now, if you speak the truth, people label you. You utter, the other. Even your friends. People can't even speak truth to their friends nowadays. Either you are out of their good graces, because jobs is not plentiful, so the little small thing you get, or you won't be in a particular social group and try to ingratiate yourself with certain people. If you even speak truth to your friends, they try to ostracize you. They try to label you as an enemy. Whereas the truth should triumph. It should be the guidepost, the lamppost that we can use to shed light on, some of the decadence of the society. When people are speaking the truth, you either opposition, you enemy, or you our man. And the most times people think they're speaking truth to their enemies. They don't speak truth to their friends, though. They either speak half truth or lies. But they think they're speaking truth to the other people who don't think like them, who don't fit in their, their idiosyncratic predispositions. So you say speaking truth to the other man, but your own friend who is doing something wrong, you can't say, no, this is wrong, because of what Marx called, the dialectical materialism. People don't want to lose certain friendship, certain little jobs, certain, amenities. They don't want to lose that. So the truth is blurred. It's running extinct, So people won't be with people who will embrace them, even if you lie, even if you come with some conjecture or like Herron talking gossip and other things. Oh yeah, what they put on here, So a public official, they dabble in those things. They come with lies and a lot of the flowery things that they would do for the people when they're seeking office. When they get there, they carry their walls up. They put another course of blocks and they put the iron thing that even if you want kind, it can even pierce you, Yeah, to show that, my man, we're not on the same level. Let's tell us that we're here. So the truth, until we start telling the truth to each other, our society will not progress. We'll always be in this state of, cognitive dissonance, where we get like zombies, we get fixated on certain people, certain party, certain groups, and and those people will be our leaders until maybe Christ come back, and the society will be stagnant. So that is a very dangerous place we are even today. I mean, I feel for the country's future, the future of the next generation, some of us who are trying to do our own little thing like Herron, get a school there. I was just communicating with people at my school to teach civic, mindedness, teach the 2, 3, 5-year-old kids about civics, about public service, what it means to be in the public arena. It's not a God-given thing. It's not a divine right. It's not divine right to be minister or this, to be president, to be legislator, to be senator or representative. It's not a divine right. It's a privilege to serve, but people see that as an opportunity to amass wealth and power. That's the only ticket people get now in Liberia. I mean, you won't enjoy now, just fight to be, lawmaker, because all the trappings that come with it, all the trappings, and most of the things are gotten, illegally. They use the public treasury. They abuse the people's right. There's no accountability. It's a collusion. It's a collusion. Everything that one person doing it all. It's a collusion. It's a syndicate. It's a syndicate that historically have done it to the Liberian people. It's not just today. It's, since the foundation of the nation state. It's a syndicate. The political class have used machinations and, devilish maneuverings to keep the people at bay. And as long as the people are kept at bay, they will prosper. And that's how they want it. So you're not interested in jobs, employment, building industries and seeking the welfare of the people. No, it's all about personal gains. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And I hope we can continue the discourse. Yes. That's important.
As always. Thank you for, that was just power pack and quickly. Would like to circle back to Mr. Herron. You can give us your closing remark, and then I'll close up here, and then we'll wrap the show for the night. I think it was a great show.
Once again, I would like to extend my profound thanks and appreciation to the host, Mr. C. Ayiti Williams, for providing this platform. And I'm very privileged and honored, at least, to share this platform with my brother, Mr. Mansfield G. My fellow Liberians, I should point out, though, that we have a very clear and urgent choice to make. We either choose autocracy over democracy, or we either choose democracy over autocracy. We need to respect the rule of law. It is quite astonishing and embarrassing to have one country with two speakers at the same time. Let us learn to play by the rules. Let us learn to obey lawful orders and follow the Constitution to its dictates. We cannot be masquerading as a democratic country, and we do not respect the tenets of democracy. And part of the tenets of democracy is the rule of law. Inasmuch as you may differ fundamentally with the decisions of the Supreme Court, they are the final arbiter of the law. What the Supreme Court says stands. Though they do not have the enforcement power, the Constitution did not give them that power. Even the sheriff that works in the court does not have the authority from the judiciary. Instead, the executive controls everything, including the military, the Liberian National Police, the immigration. So in order for us to have both check and balances, we must respect all three independent branches of government. Thank you very much. Have a good and golden night.
I want to say thank you very much to both panelists, Mr. Nathaniel Herron, as well as Mr. Doupu, for showing up tonight. Tonight was an incredible night. And to our viewers, we want to thank all of you for tuning in and staying with us. Tonight, we've looked hard at the truth. Many would rather ignore, and that's exactly what We Too Are Liberals movement is about. Uncomfortable honesty, grounded hope, and unwavering belief in the power of the people. To the market woman in Pinsville, to students in Zwedru, the brother rider in Ganta, and the single mother in West Point, you are not powerless, you are not voiceless, you are not alone, you are the majority. Remember this, change does not begin with the capital or in the capital. It begins in the community. And you, yes, you have a role in building the Liberia you dream of. So let's keep the conversation alive. Let's turn the talk into action. Let's remind the world that We Too Are Liberians movement. And we are not done fighting for our future. I'm your host, as usual, Ayiti Williams. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, stay awake, stay bold, and stay united. Good night, and I look forward to another episode of the We Too Are Liberians movement. You have a good night, and I look forward to talking to you guys here soon. Bye.
Peace.
This is how we conclude the show.
It's all we want to live. Give me food, give me clothes, give me love, and give me shelter.